Hi Blender fans, and welcome once again to Blender TC. And don't forget, if you're new to the channel, consider subscribing. Let's begin. Hi Blender fans, and welcome once again to Blender TC. In the last tutorial we made a pawn. In this time's tutorial we're going to actually make a castle. The reference image is in the description of this video. And what we're going to do is we're going to actually make the castle. The reference image I made myself, but we're going to make the castle. First of all, I'm going to hide the pawn by pressing the H key, just to hide the actual pawn model. And what we're going to do now is we're going to make the castle. Right, the nearest thing to a castle is to add mesh, and we're going to add a cylinder. Scale the cylinder down by pressing the S key. And then what we're going to do is move it over to the side here, and then press the full stop, which will actually zoom in on our castle. So I'm just going to keep shrinking it down until it's about the right size. Control C will undo, and G will just move our cylinder around and just position it so it's about central. The next thing I'm going to do is actually, with my mouse button held down, go into edit mode by pressing the tab key, go on face select and select the bottom face. And then I'm going to G and Z, press the Z key until the actual blue line appears, and this will lock it into that so scale. Now I'm just going to scale that until it starts to change about there. And what we're going to do now is we're going to do Control and R. We're going to keep on face select. In fact, we'll go on to line select now. Select a line and Control and R just to subdivide the cylinder. I'm just going to Control and R and subdivide it again. And I'm going to Control and R and subdivide it again. The reason we're doing this is because if you press the S key, we could scale this so it actually follows these contours. So as you can see, that's changing there. So I'm just going to subdivide that again. And if you press the G and G key, what you can do is move this so it lines up with this point there. And I'm just going to Alt and left click just to select that ring and scale it up to about there. And I'm going to GG just to move it up to about there, and Control and R just to split it again and scale. And as you can see, you can scale up and you can scale down depending on what you need to do. So I'm just going to scale up there, GG just to move it in itself, and I'm just going to Control and R to subdivide again and scale it down. And basically I'm just going to keep following this pattern. So Control Z to undo, left click and scale up, Control R and scale. As you can see, I'm just following the Control and R. I'm just going to follow the picture. Pressing the 1 key makes us look from the front, and I'm just going to zoom in slightly because I want to add another loop cut there. Control and R, scale just to take it up to about there. GG to move it in itself. Control and R, scale up, and Control and R, scale. Anyway, that where you want a tight loop, Control and R, scale, just like so. Anywhere you put two lines close together, or three, you will end up with a line when we subdivide this model. Control and R, so it makes a sharp edge. Control and R, just going to scale that up slightly. And put Control and R and scale this down just to follow GG the pattern of our castle. So looking from the front by pressing the 1 key, what we need to do is we need to actually increase this to about there and start again. So face select, go on the 1 key and G and Z just to move it to about there, and we're going to go and do exactly the same thing by subdividing and scaling. Control and R, GG to move it in itself, just scale it up slightly like so. Control and R and scale. Left will fix the actual loop cut, and we're just scaling it like so. So let me select the top face, and I'm just going to scale this up slightly. So up to there, just to about there. Just Control and R, scale. Control and R and scale. Scaling it up and down just to follow these patterns. Go on face select, select the top face, and what we're going to do is we're going to E to extrude and Z, just Control Z. If it goes out of line like that, you can Control Z and undo. So E, Z twice until the actual purple line appears, like so. And what I'm going to do is E and S to scale this down. I'm now going to scale this down twice more. E and S to scale. G and Z just to move it up slightly. E and S. G and Z. And I'm just going to E and S and E and S, because if it's on a flat plane, that does less distortion when we subdivide it. So we've got now basically our castle. I'm just going to shade smooth this by right clicking and applying shade smooth. I'm now going to select the face select, press the Alt key down and select that ring. If we hit the 7 key and look from the top, what we can do is hold the Shift key down, select the faces, and just we're going to take these 8 faces away. And what I'm going to do now is, by looking at the front, I'm going to go E and Z until the purple line appears, like so, and our castle's just about done. But as you can see, there's a bit of distortion there, so I'm just going to hit the spanner or wrench, add a modifier, and it's a subdivide modifier, say like so. I'm just doing that to make this a bit clearer. And what I'm going to do is now I'm going to Control and R and either roll your mouse wheel up 2 like so, Control and R, or you can press the 2 key on your normal keyboard. Control and R, 2. Or like I say, you can move your mouse wheel up, which has the same effect. I believe pressing the 2 has more control, but there you go. So I'm just going to select this line here, and I'm going to Control and R, press the 2 key just to subdivide this, and this sharpens things up. Pressing the Tab key, and as you can see, our castle is more or less finished. All I need to do is select the actual colours that we created in the first tutorial, and we've got the white. Go into edit mode, A to select all, and we're going to assign the white, and then I'm going to select the bottom face like so. As you can see, we've got a bit of distortion there. The way to get rid of the distortion is to E and S, and E and S again. Because they're on the same plane, the distortion now has vanished. I'm just going to look from the front, grow my selection, like so, Control and plus, until it's in the right place. And I'm just going to add another colour to this model, and that's the green we created in the first tutorial. Then assign that as well. Oops. Right, if we go into the actual rendered view now, as you can see, we've assigned the green, and we've also assigned the white, and all we need to do now is put Alt and H just to make our pawn reappear, and we have now made our pawn and our castle. So this is the second tutorial done, more or less. All I'm going to do is, I'd like this line here to be sharper and certain parts of my model to be sharper. So I'm just going to add a little bit more detail, Control and R, just to sharpen these up. Anywhere you actually Control and R, and move two lines together, this will actually sharpen a line. As you can see, that appears now, and like so here. And if you want to add more detail to things, all you have to do is Control and R, scale things up like so, and add as much detail or as little detail as you wish. Control and R. You can actually, if you wanted to actually put a bulge there, then you could put a bulge there if you wanted to, but I don't think that looks particularly good, and I prefer my castle that I created earlier. All I'm going to do is I'm going to move these lines down. Oops, sorry. Alt, left click, and just select these bottom lines all the way around my model, and I'm going to GG just to move them in the south, and this sharpens the lines like so. And as you can see, I think I'm quite happy with the actual results. I'm just going to subdivide these again just to sharpen that top edge up slightly. Control and R just to subdivide. Control and R like so. And I think I'm just going to sharpen this up a bit. So GG, just scale it down closer to the edge, and voila. All we need to do at the end of this is add an HDRI just to get a bit more natural light and make it look a bit more real. But we'll be doing that in the final tutorial. So please subscribe to my channel and join me on the next tutorial when we will be making a king. Bye for now and subscribe.